and our analysts with the tools they need to do good threat hunting, to help defend our clients. But also we offer Dragonfly for our clients to be able to log in and see everything that our analysts see. Today, what we're going to be talking about is ransomware, that scary word that gets thrown around that people seem to not really understand how it works. So what we're going to talk about is not necessarily the ransomware side of it. I'm sure you all know if you're ransomed, your machines are locked up, your data is unavailable. Most of the time your machines are unavailable. And it's really just a bad day for everybody. And then you got to start looking at getting Bitcoins and paying these guys. And if you don't, well, ever since Maze, now they decided to exploit further with any exfiltrated data being published live. So it's becoming a very, very dark side of the cybersecurity landscape, that's for sure. And we wanted to talk about what actually happens in a ransomware attack, what leads you all the way to ransom. I'll tell you right now, any of these folks getting ransomed, it's not happening right off the bat. They're not downloading a ransomware executable and running it on their machine. They're not clicking on a ransomware executable in an email and it just ransoms their box. It's not how it happens. The path to ransomware actually begins with an initial exploit. That initial exploit is a piece of malware that is disguised, usually in a spam campaign or a mail spam campaign, where it's a document coming in that says it's an invoice, a Word doc, or it's an Excel spreadsheet that that makes that person need to click on it and enable macros. That's typically what we see. From there, that installs a DLL, and that initial exploit malware starts communicating. Now, we've all heard, well, we probably all heard the term command and control, or C2 servers. That is the server that's out there waiting on the internet, waiting for those pieces of malware to phone home so that other commands can be sent down, other payloads, and reconnaissance can begin, and exfiltration of data can begin. And the rest of the cybersecurity providers out there are very focused on the command and control aspect here. They really want to know, and they publish these as IOCs, indicators of compromise. They're wanting to know what IP what the latest version is of the command and control, what their IP is, what domain name it is, everything they can know about that. Well, there's a problem with taking that approach. As soon as the bad guys realize their cover is blown and they're being published in IOCs with the popular threat intel providers, they go ahead and just move IPs or move their domain name, and then it starts all over again. So it's a cat and mouse thing. We at Braintrace, obviously, we ingest IOCs. We bring in threat intelligence and we use it because it is valuable, but it's not the end all be all of stopping these sorts of attacks. So where else can you look? Well, with Dragonfly, we actually look at the communication from these pieces of malware out to that server. With this engine called encrypted payload analytics, we don't care about the IP address. It doesn't even come into play. We don't care about any of those IOCs that are published by the threat intel community. They don't actually add any sort of, they don't actually help with this engine, honestly. The engine that does this detection, I'm getting ahead of myself. We do use IOCs. We do use threat intel with our DPI engine. Yes, that's definitely something that we do because it would be stupid not to. However, for our EPA deep learning engine, it's just not part of what we're looking at. We're actually looking for the way that the communication happens. So every client piece of software and every server piece of software has a specific way of talking, and when they're talking, there are tells in that speech. So there are patterns that we're able to detect based off of who's doing the talking here. And we, with our engine, our EPA engine, encrypted payload analytics, we're able to look at those encrypted streams that normally you're only able to see metadata information around them. And you have to, you know, that's when you have to update your blacklists on a daily basis, or even more often than that, with threat intel from these providers that are detonating malware and then uploading where they're going. We are actually able to look at the payload portion of that communication, and from there fingerprint how that malware sounds. So the great thing about being able to do this is when they do go ahead and their cover is blown and they switch to a new C2 server, it doesn't matter, they still sound the same. In fact, most of the malware that we watch sounds the same over multiple different versions of it. In fact, one of the families that we've been watching for a long time, Emotet, even our earliest models, our earliest prediction models still detect the latest version of Emotet. So it's a great 0-day C2 detection method that we obviously enrich our DPI threat intelligence detections with. So that's our approach to detecting these initial payloads. There's also there is also something called a post-exploit framework. This guy over here on the right, the post-exploit framework is sent down by the command and control servers to do additional things on the network. So this is the second part of the ransomware attack. The initial exploit can do some things. A lot of them are like a banking Trojan, where they'll steal your password safe and then use that to go bust into your bank accounts and siphon money off. They'll do other things. They'll steal all your usernames and passwords on the local machine. They'll do, you know, basic things like that. The post-exploit framework is much more dangerous. This piece of, it's not even, the one that we're going to talk about today isn't even malware. It is from a legitimate pen testing software. The one we're talking about today is called Cobalt Strike. The bad guys obviously realize that it's a really good it's a really good framework, so they got their hands on it. And honestly, I went and found where I could get it for free as well in the dark web. And they're able to create things called beacons, which do a whole lot more than just your initial malware. So with this post-exploit framework, they're able to do recon on your network. They're remote controlling your box to the highest degree. They're able to look around on and check out everything on the network. They're able, once they find something out in your servers, they're going to start exfiltrating that data over multiple different methods. We're talking DNS exfiltration, and obviously, you know, that still happens today because DNS is wide open for a lot of corporations. We're talking about NTP exfiltration, all sorts of different exfil, even out to legitimate services. So like up to Google Drive, they'll exfil all your data out there and then pull it down. Or a lot of times they'll just email it out. So there's a lot to be said for being able to detect at that level as well. And that's one thing that I think sets us apart from the rest of the intelligence community. This is our stance on how we look at, you know, the different engines that we use when we analyze network traffic and how that relates to what we're talking about today. So we've spoke a little bit about DPI, deep packet inspection. It's what everybody runs out there, you know, with Snort or Suricata or Zeek. That's where you bring in your threat intel and plug it in and hope that you've got the right IOCs. From that, from the DPI engine, we take that and all the metadata that we're collecting, we push through another engine called Session Risk Analytics, SRA. What that does is it's a simple table of logic that says if this piece of metadata is between this value and this value, we're going to up the risk. So this looks for things like, is it a certificate mismatch? Is it running TLS version 1.0 or 1.1? Is it showing a binary application transfer? Is the protocol that's been detected a more risky protocol like Tor or BitTorrent? So it's really, the SRA engine doesn't require threat intel. It's updated on a quarterly basis, and it's really just about logic. Up from there, we've talked about encrypted payload analytics, or EPA engine. That is a deep learning prediction model that we use. It runs in real time on all of our sensors, and it detects the multiple different families of malware, and that's our main focus in this webinar. And then we also have a DGA engine, that's domain generation algorithm detection, and that is also a deep learning engine that looks for domains that have been generated by algorithms known to be used in malware applications. So those are our different layers or different engines for our detections in Dragonfly, and it's what really gives us, I think, the extra the extra parts that we need to get those 0-day attacks and to stop ransomware in its tracks before it even gets started. Now, we talked about Cobalt Strike. We touched on it a little bit ago. This is the post-exploitation framework. There are other post-exploit frameworks. There's one called PowerShell Empire. We're also able to detect that. There are a couple of other ones that are not really legitimate, ones that have been turned to the dark side. They're known in the community, and those are definite malwares. This one is not technically malware, but if it is detected on your system, you really, really need to do something about it. It can lead to pretty much any ransomware that's been developed. There's really no set one that you're going to get if you've got Cobalt Strike on your network. Now, EPA can detect Cobalt Strike communications straight out of the gate. We've been watching Cobalt Strike for a very long time. We've trained over multiple different revisions of it, and we know exactly how it sounds when it talks to its C2 servers. So that is one place. This is the second step in the ransomware attack, where we detect it and we can stop it. But like I said, this is probably the last step before you get that first box ransomed, and then you're up a creek with out a paddle. Let me move forward here. Talking about some of the other initial exploit malwares. Emotet. So this guy's still out there. He was really made famous last year with the amount of Ryuk infections or Ryuk ransomware that happened. And it was really this trifecta: the Emotet initial exploit, the TrickBot botnet, which was doing all sorts of reconnaissance. It does all sorts of other payload downloads and exfiltration, all sorts of nasty things that TrickBot can do. In fact, TrickBot was under attack by Microsoft and the U.S. government around the election, and in so much that they really eliminated a lot of the TrickBot C2 servers out there. Unfortunately, they still exist, and we're detecting them daily with EPA, and it seems like the rest of the community is not catched up, or is not still keeping their eye on TrickBot, but he still is alive. They did a good job shutting him down or suppressing him for a bit, but he's still out there. And the other nasty thing about TrickBot is he can actually be now the initial exploit as well. He doesn't actually need Emotet even in the mix. But Emotet, he's an oldie but a goodie. He's a banking Trojan, been around for a long time. There are multiple different ways that he can infect your machine. Hopefully you're running a good endpoint and you have good training for your staff so that they don't do silly things with emails. And that's really where you're going to get it nowadays is through email. Let me move forward to another family here. Baza loader, also known as Bazaar backdoor. This is the next revision of TrickBot. It's by the same team, the same actors that created TrickBot. And as TrickBot was getting beat down by Microsoft and the feds, Baza loader was picking up, in so much that we were detecting the same C2 servers were out there for Baza loader and TrickBot. They were going to the same place, so they were basically switching over all of these assets that they had gained out in the field with TrickBot to Baza loader. It's a way more sophisticated initial piece of malware, initial exploit malware. It's doing a lot of evasion things. All of its C2 communication is over TLS, so nothing HTTP, no clear text protocols, so no snort roll is going to catch it. The other thing about Baza loader though is they are using DGA for some of their communications. For exfiltrations, they're using DGA pretty heavily. Our DGA detection engine picks up on Baza loader right out the gate. It's easy to find Bazaar loader or Baza loader domains, generated domains out there. Well, and obviously EPA. So the path here is Baza loader to Ryuk is what it can do, or what we've seen is Baza loader to Cobalt Strike, and then whichever ransomware family they feel like locking the place up with. TrickBot, we talked about him. He's been beaten down pretty hard. As we've been watching the different revisions of him come out from Team 9, they've actually gotten to the point where over the past, I would say, month and a half, the TrickBot has moved away from looking like it did, looking like TrickBot, to looking actually more like Baza loader, but there's still a difference there. But I think that soon TrickBot will cease to exist, and it will be just Baza loader or some mixture of the two together. TrickBot does communicate over TLS, but there's still some HTTP communication in there. So there are some clear text tells that you can look for. Anytime you see anything talking out on port 449, you better look into that. In fact, you should just block outbound web communications on 449 to begin with. Only allow it out on 443 and port 80 if there's still a little 2% of the internet that needs HTTP running. TrickBot can go direct to another ransomware called Conti ransomware. It's kind of like a newer version of Ryuk. Does the same stuff, just locks it up. We've got Ryuk, TrickBot to Ryuk, and then TrickBot to Cobalt Strike to choose your poison. QuackBot. QuackBot is a highly sophisticated initial piece of malware. It is extremely evasive. It has virtual machine evasion techniques. So when it is loaded into a sandbox, it does not run. We had to do quite a bit of manipulation to get QuackBot to start talking for our training. To push egregor ransomware, Mega Cortex, Prolock, and then obviously they They do what everyone else is doing, and they use Cobalt Strike and then do whatever they feel like. A lot of these, when they do choose the Cobalt Strike method, they are interested in doing exfiltration of your data before they lock the place up. So that's the main message we want to get across here is there is definitely a path. There's more to a ransomware attack than just the ransomware. And when you understand that, you can stop it early. And that's, I think that's the end of my slideshow. I'm gonna just jump into our live Dragonfly demo environment just to show you guys around a little bit, show you some of these EPA detections live. And let me just grab that. This here is our threat overview dashboard in Dragonfly. What you see on the screen here are the different engines that I talked about and their detections. This is over the last 5 minutes, where I also have some malware sandboxes talking out to C2 servers. What you see in the center, this is called a force-directed graph. And the dots on the screen, these are the white ones indicate a private IP, and the black ones indicate a public IP. And then the different colors indicate the engine and the type of detection that is happening there. Our analysts or anyone who uses Dragonfly can click on anything in here and find out more information. This one is this one's talking about, this is a detection of a initial exploit malware called Zloader. Zloader has been tied to Ryuk. He's also recently been tied to Cobalt Strike infections, and then ransomware. As you see here, our EPA model's really confident about this one. He's definitely seen this EPA signature before. So he's saying, yeah, I know this guy. And our SRA model, our SRA engine, is coming back with some of the problems or some of the risks with this flow. And those are, it's running a self-signed cert. That's bad. Okay. There's a TLS certificate mismatch, and hey, guess what? That TLS tunnel, it's probably not carrying HTTPS. So it's not your regular web traffic TLS tunnel. So these tells right here say there is definitely something wrong with this flow. And then with the EPA coming in, that says, obviously, that says we know that this is Zloader. Based off of our training, we know this is Zloader. And where are these flows going? Right to this guy that says dog run right now. So, oh, look, he's hosted in Russia. Imagine that. So this is bringing in, this is showing all those same detections because he is the destination. And then what an analyst can do is see what the community says about that particular location there, or that particular destination. So it looks like some of the community is saying, yeah, this guy's malicious. We got Fortinet saying it's malware, Sophos saying it's malware. So a lot of people saying, yeah, it's definitely malware. If we go into details in here, oh, there you go, Zloader. So it's our EPA engine is very accurate. We make sure that during our training that we only feed the right malware flows in the right classification, so that we don't have a lot of false positives. That is actually a patent pending process for EPA, and it's one of our, I would say, flagship detection methods. Let's just take a look at another one over here. In fact, I'm going to just zoom in on these guys. So we already looked at dog run. Let's see what this guy is saying. All right, we got a Cobalt Strike. Probably seen this before. Probably not carrying HTTPS. and his TLS, his SNI TLS extension was missing. So this guy right off the bat he is not saying what domain he's supposed to be, that is assigned to him via the clear text TLS metadata. So he's trying to hide who he is right off the bat. And if we were to go and take a look at, let's look at the community and see what, oh, look at that. He's in the Netherlands. That's not surprising, honestly. Let's see if there's if anyone else sees this. So Fortinet again, they show it as malware in Komodo. Let's look in details, see if we can figure out any further information here, just based off of what people are saying in the community. Maybe something in relations. Oh, look at that. Cobalt Strike shellcode. So yeah, it's this is a way that our analysts can make sure that they're not raising red flags when they don't need to be. And you know, we do our best programmatically to get rid of false positives, but you know, when you're talking about a detection like this, EPA, it's a deep learning prediction model. It's a model that's been trained to look at traffic flows and from those flows classify them. And it does that with a confidence, right? Anything under 92, we usually won't even look at because it's too low for our standard. But anything at 99 or 100, we're definitely going to take a look at. So this is the threat overview. Let me move over to just let me focus in on the EPA overview page here. This one's based on all of the different initial. So we have a lot of the initial malware on this particular dashboard, and then we have the one Cobalt Strike here. Like I said, we do have other detections for other frameworks. These are the more popular ones that we're showing here, and this is where our analysts can find those early warnings and get them shut down. I guess at that I will open this up for questions.
Thanks, John. So the only question I see here so far is, so which malware have you been seeing the most in the past 2 weeks? Which one should we be concerned about?
Well, I would say that the biggest, I mean, the one that's making news right now is Sunburst with, you know, with the FireEye breach that happened, you know, that's been attributed back to the update for the SolarWinds Orion framework software. You know, that's been linked back to a nation state actor. They are they've been at this one for a long time. You know, they were able to digitally sign. They got their malware into that update. It's digitally signed. You can't detect that. Well, you can now. I mean, there's signatures that have basically said that SolarWinds update is malware. But if anyone's running SolarWinds out there, make sure you look into this, because this is a highly evasive attack technique. It's not related, I would say, to ransomware at this point. But it's definitely, you know, it's a backdoor. It's like any of these other initial exploit malwares. It creates C2 activity out to a command and control, and then they have their way with you. So I'm not saying it won't be linked to ransomware. In fact, it probably will be. But that's the one making a lot of news right now. I would say that Quackbot has been busy out there. Zloader definitely. Smoke Loader. There's so many. It's insanity. The amount of different ways to get infected is just keeps going up. And I think, you know, from that's why we've taken the approach of understanding how these families talk and trying not to focus our efforts on chasing the mouse around. We want to just be able to say that, you know, this guy sounds like this, and then use other information that we get from the community and other sources to back up those findings.
Yeah, I think this sunburst is our next webinar, John. Just
Yeah,
joking.
definitely Sunburst will be our next webinar. We do have Sunburst in our sandboxes right now. It is, like I said, it's highly evasive. There are a lot of hoops you got to jump through even to get this thing to talk. It's it's impressive, I must say. The actual communication that it uses isn't that impressive. I mean, it's clear text HTTP out to command and control. They're really noisy with their DGA. So if you got DGA detection, you're going to catch it. There are some snort rules out there that FireEye published. So if you are running snort or Suricata in-house, you can use those for some detections, but keep in mind those were based off of just off of FireEye's experience in their breach with it. So I'm sure there's a lot based on the amount of time and effort they put into Sunburst. I'm sure there's a lot more that we're going to see coming out of the attacks that'll be coming up pretty soon here.
Cool. Let me see if any other questions. I don't see any questions. So yeah, just on that sunburst, everyone, you know, John, the lab team, and I help contribute. We have articles, reports coming out, you know, once a week we try to do it. So that will probably be the next one we do release. So keep an eye out of that on LinkedIn, on our website. Just want to thank everyone for coming here. And, you know, as I said, we do have Apple Watch. So we're going to throw everyone's name in a hat, and we'll send out an email saying the winner. So, you know, thank you all for coming here. We have a white paper on this exact topic.
Yep.
Yeah. We have a white paper on this exact topic. I believe I sent it to some of you. If I did not, I will be sure to send it. So, you know, it will be a PDF, so you don't have to worry about that being any Trojan or anything. So look out for that. So again, thanks everyone for coming. And if you do have any questions that you're not able to get out today, just email me at andrew@braintrace.com. And I'll go and email John, and we'll figure out the answer for you. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good day and happy holidays. And hope the rest of the year works out well for you. Thank you.
Thank you.